Hello, good morning and welcome to NewsFile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on NewsFile we put Ghana first. 31 secessionists arrested. They have been known for years, but got arrested only after they held citizens to ransom, maimed, and caused destruction. Is this a classical case of failure in intelligence? Will they repeat their acts? The Electoral Commission's integrity is brought under question by the opposition NDC. President Mahama accuses the Electoral Commission of mismanagement, accuses them of fundamental, monumental incompetence. But did he get his brief right? Does that accusation not apply to whoever gave him the information that he gave the public about padding of the voter numbers as registered earlier and about missing names, essentially? The political parties have promises to fight corruption. But as you can see, corruption appears to have been on a low key in this election, when corruption was the deciding factor in the 2016 elections. We will interrogate their manifestos and what they talk about, they say they intend to do if they are given the opportunity to govern. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. You're welcome back. This is NewsFile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And as you know, here on NewsFile, we put Ghana first. And my take, I title it, President, Executive, No Power to Suspend Law. President, Executive, no power to suspend law. As you may be aware, the government has announced that it has suspended the implementation of the law banning the importation of salvage vehicles. Suspended the implementation of the law banning the importation of salvage vehicles. The pure point of law that needs to be made so that the citizens are not confused or miseducated is that neither the president nor the executive have the power to, as it were, unmake a law. The power to unmake a law is either by repeal, that is done by the people's representatives in Parliament, or that a court has struck a portion of a law down. Once a law is passed and is in effect or has an effective date, a mere announcement by anybody reversing or suspending same does not pass muster. The Constitution does not allow that. Yes, professors and academics who have iconoclastic views and are very genuine about this democracy and speak on governance, like Professor H.K.C. Prempe, you've heard Professor Raymond Atuguba, you've heard Professor Kwaku Azar, say that what our Constitution gives us is an almost imperial precedent. However, there are laws that the presidency is subjected to. The president has no power to say, or executive to say, that it has suspended a law. Let's not miseducate the citizens or confuse them. The law says that the Customs Amendment Act 2020 says that the prohibition against the importation of salvage motor vehicles into the country under paragraph B of subsection 1 of section 58 shall come into force 6 months after the date of the coming into force of this act. Until this provision is amended, repealed, the law is in effect from November the 1st, as we understand. So that is by way of some education. That's my take. Thank you very much. Now let's get to meet our guests and begin the discussion this morning. So this morning, we are joined in the studio by Osei Bonsu Amwa. Many of you know him as O.B. Amwa. He is MP, Ekwapem South, and Deputy Minister, Local Government and Rural Development. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Samson, for having me here.
Also here in the studio is Sami Jamfi, who's a National Communications Officer, National Democratic Congress. He's a lawyer. Thanks for joining us.
Grateful to be here.
Right. Now, we will have joining us via Zoom Professor Kwesi Ening, who is Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. If Prof. Kwesi Ening is on with us, say hi to us. Okay. So he's not ready yet. Once he joins us, we'll introduce him to you. And as you know, we are discussing the issue of the secessionist. We will later, once we begin the discussion with the exhibition process, then we will have Dr. Sribo Kweku, who is Director of Electoral Services, Electoral Commission, also join us. Thank you very much. Now, let's get to begin with our discussion for this morning. But before that, I ought to let you know that this show is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa, Consolidated Bank Ghana, we stand with you. Duraplus, where Duraplus goes, water flows. We lead, we build home for you. Star Assurance, your solid partner, and Rehoboth Properties. So, as you are aware, yesterday we woke up to very disturbing news of a group of people who apparently have been known by all of us and by the security apparatus for a long time. In fact, some of them have been arrested, released, among other things, over a certain period. And suddenly yesterday, they did, can we say the unthinkable? Blocked roads, caused traffic, entered police stations, seized police stations, and took away arms and ammunition, we are told, and caused vandalism. In fact, in the process of the security being on their tail, we understand that a life was lost. So, Dr. Kwesi Ening is back with us. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Kwesi Ening. Hello, Professor Kwesi Ening.
Yes.
Great. Very good to have you. Very good to have you.
Can you hear me? Yes, thank you.
Yes, I can hear you. All right. So the very first, and I think most critical question, very basic, that many people have asked is this not a representation of a classical example of intelligence failure, very monumental, so to speak, on the part of our intelligence agencies? knowing that this group, which is in about 3 different phases, we are told, has existed for so long and has planned to do some of these things for a long time? Hello, Professor Edin.
Yes, question is mine. I think the network is quite unstable, but I'll try to respond to what I heard from your question as to whether on the part of the intelligence security agencies. There is no doubt at all.
Okay, so I think we clearly need to work that, be very clear about what's happened, but take a view at look at some of these footages that came from these, disturbances. Just watch. So those of you who have the benefit of the television pictures, they put tires in the middle of the road, bent them, and we see the fire going up, and there are attempts to put the fire out. And you have this group, a militia of sorts, chanting in the midst of what they are doing. We'll bring you pictures also of what they have done to, we're told, 2 police stations. And you see the vandalism that occurred. Yes, that's a police station. You see the vandalism that occurred. The entire police station ransacked. And as we understand, they appear to have managed to take away, some weapons. The security agencies, as in the police and the military, yesterday issued a statement after they were done with their operations. So I'll read their statement as you watch the footage of the vandalism that went on. They said that the Ghana Armed Forces and the Ghana Police Service jointly make reference to the activities of Homeland Study Group Foundation, HSGF, which occurred at dawn of Friday, 25th September 2020, in the general area of Jopong, Sogakope, Avehime, Mepe, and Akuse, and to assure the general public that the situation has since been brought under control. It is confirmed that at about 2 a.m. on the stated dates, elements of the group attacked the Aveime and Mepe police stations. So those are the 2 police stations that were attacked, Aveime and Mepe police stations, and further mounted roadblocks on the Japong Accra and Sogakope Accra main roads, thereby disrupting the daily routine of the citizenry. In response to these unlawful acts, a joint military police team, in conjunction with other security agencies, deployed to the affected areas and succeeded in apprehending 31 members of the group. These arrested persons have since been brought to Accra for interrogation. Fire exchanges between the group and the security agencies led to the death of 1 member of the group and injury to 3 others. The police commander at Aveime was also wounded and has been evacuated to the police hospital. The wounded group members have also been evacuated to the Ho Teaching Hospital, and you'll see that shortly on our screens the evacuation for these people. All the roadblocks have also been cleared, and the security agencies have taken control. They have taken control. We'll ask why they are now taking control when this appears to have been something they ought to have known all this while. Taking control of the highways and strategic installations within the region. It is hereby stated that an earlier preemptive operation on Thursday, 24th September 2020, foiled a plan by the group to burn the whole central market and other key installations. So a day before, they actually had intelligence that they intended to burn the whole central market. We wish to reassure the general public that the security and intelligence agencies are in firm control, underline, of the situation and remain undaunted in their resolve at preserving and protecting the sanctity of the entire territory of our dear country. In the meantime, the general public, so I think what you're about to see now is the evacuation process that happened. In the meantime, the general public is entreated to remain calm and to volunteer any relevant information on the activities of the group for necessary action. And this was signed by Eric Agri Kwashi, Colonel, Director, Public Relations, the Ghana Armed Forces, and Sheila Kessie Abeye Bachman, Mrs., Superintendent of Police, Director, Public Affairs, Ghana Police Service. So that's the evacuation, the pictures that you are seeing now as they get ready to evacuate the wounded and evacuate the dead and the wounded. There was the police commander who was wounded and has been brought to Accra, and then the members of the group who got wounded who were also taken to Ho. All right, so let's get to Professor Kwesi Enin. Prof, I hope that our lines are clear now.
Yes, hello.
Yes, Professor Enin.
Yes.
Okay, so the question isn't this clear enough that our security has failed us?
Well, it certainly does raise some very disturbing questions. And these are disturbing questions that I think should not be swept under the carpet. And let me go a couple of steps back. The video plus the statement that you have alluded to. There is a police communications statement dated 3rd of September. I think the time on it is 14:05. So as you correctly say, there was enough intelligence almost 36 hours prior to yesterday's activity. So they are about how the intelligence was used, understood when the flash came. Now, use the word success for what took place yesterday in terms of the action by the rebel group. And I'm using this word rebel because one or two of the statements, official statements that have been issued, uses that word rebel. I think it was the police statement. What happened yesterday is the single most successful first-time military attack by a secessionist group, both in the Sahel-Sahara and in West Africa. And that is the context within which we should examine the import taking place. If one looks at the videos that you have shown and the names of the towns that you have mentioned, the sheer geographical expanse of where the actions took place, the time that it took them to block roads, sing patriotic songs, dance round, and also talk to people. The choice of the 2 police stations, the successes in overrunning them, tying them up, destroying state property, and seizing, shows or tells a story of careful planning, masterful execution, and a clear signal to the state. This particular group has gone beyond talking. Important to recognize that there are now 2 flags and possibly more than 2 or 3 groups, or using a secessionist language. So let me speak a little bit about the sheer immense of the collective failure to prevent what happened yesterday.
Now, Prof,
secessionist groups decide to engage a state, they are very
hello, Prof. I think we have a problem with his Zoom connection. Perhaps maybe we should just do a direct phone conversation. If we can just reach him by phone directly, that may be better, because he's saying some very important things with his expertise and knowledge of the situation. And Professor Kwesi Ening, as you know, is no stranger to this subject, has consulted and advised extensively, including to the UN, on these matters, and in Ghana has been quick to go to. Now, let's listen to this, and I'll watch and listen to this, and I'll use that to ask Prof a further question before I come to ask him whether or not we should discount and completely ignore the claims that this may not be a security or intelligence failure, but perhaps, just perhaps, no matter how propagandist it may sound, that this may have been a deliberate thing put out there, and so it's not a security failure or intelligence failure. On the 24th of August, this group was cited somewhere, one of their leaders, so to call, or members, evangelizing residents about the need or the importance of what they have been seeking to do. Let's listen to this one and then continue with Professor Kwesi Ening.
Everybody, I will bless you in the name of our Father, the Father of the land, Western Togoland. Today, the 24th day of August 2020, is a special day in the history of Western Togoland. Look, friends of mine and beloveds of Western Togoland, we are suffering for too much, and it is too much for us. We are serving Ghana for many years. We are not getting anything. We are ready to go home. We are ready. We are ready. We want Western Togoland to be free. We want to turn Nana Akufo-Addo. The voter regional minister lecture, Ashpo lecture Yao. Release Western Togoland. Release him. Release them. Release them. This is the time. This is the time. This is the time. This is the time for Western Togoland. For Western Togoland to be free. Hey, Western Togoland.
Right. So, Professor Enin, this is as far back as the 24th of August. What does that say?
Well, it points to, it actually even creates a much more disturbing picture of the intelligence failures that we are talking about. Because this was not a hidden meeting. I mean, we need to know which town this meeting took place in, because I suspect part of the rebuttal might be that this might not even have taken place in Ghana. So it would be useful to be able to identify that town. But if it did happen in Ghana, and it was such a public meeting, and it was not reported, so that preventive action could be taken a month later, then the monumental failure of intelligence is even much more disturbing. But if you permit me for a couple of seconds to go back to the point I was making about the symbolism in attacking institutions of the state, and particularly the choice of a police station.
And if you may go back a bit more and summarize your first substantive points you made in isolating this as the first whatever in West Africa?
Okay, let me repeat that. This is the most successful first attack by a secessionist group against a sovereign state in West Africa and in the Sahel-Sahara. It is the most successful first secessionist attack because we need to look at the geographical expanse of the attack. Okay, from Japan to Sogakope to all the towns that you mentioned. Now, these are not small towns. So where were the police, national security, the BNI? Okay, so that is one, the sheer geographical expanse. The second is the coordinated nature of those attacks. They all took place within a certain time frame. And the failure of the state is that if you see that trucks were brought in to dump red earth on the roads to block them, people sang patriotic songs, they set fire, they danced, all without a response from the state. The final symbolism around the success relates to the police station. Two police stations representing the state overran, okay, and totally defeated. Now, the 10 AK-47s that were stolen is very symbolic, okay? Now, we don't actually know if they took only 10 AK-47. We know that the National Commission for Small Arms has marked all small arms weapons in the Volta region. So we need to do an audit. But you see, the state's response to what happened yesterday is very incoherent so far. You see, because if we are serious, we need to say, look, yes, 10 guns, what were the numbers that had been stenciled on them and all those things. So the weak response, the attempt to cover tracks by saying, oh, no, this was a failure. This was not a failure at all. The significance of what has taken place, the way it will be interpreted by those across the borders. Let's not forget, when it started in Burkina Faso, it was very small. It's now taking over 85% of the country. La Côte d'Ivoire is going through a very dangerous election next month. Togo's post-election is still very unstable. So what has happened needs to be looked at very carefully, very methodically, and that no knee-jerk reaction. By showing them on television or the videos that are going around when the 31 people were brought to Accra, the Air Force Base, does not help our case. I think you mentioned close to about 5 or 6 towns where these attacks took place.
Mm-hmm.
It was not 31 people who did it.
Mm.
So we're only looking at the tip of a mega problem. And it's important that in looking or in analyzing what has taken place, that we look at how, or the historicity of this. This has germinated close to over 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As a unitary state, we have been dismissive in listening to any position that undermines that unitary state. But when groups who feel excluded, because I haven't done a discourse analysis of what the tape that you played, but if I heard the young man well, he said, we are ready to go home.
Yes.
And the question is, go home to where? Okay.
He said that the people in the Volta region are not recognized, they are discriminated against. He mentions that even if you go to the workplace, all sorts of things and developments, they are lagging behind, and therefore they don't feel that they have been treated well, so they are ready to go home.
Yeah. So one of the aspects that we don't normally look at when we have these conversations is the emotional aspect of conflict. Okay, and I was struck by the statement about we are ready to go home and the catalog of offenses that makes them feel excluded. Okay, so the narrative or the responses coming from the state now about the need for a hard response. And I've seen some videos of combat troops with sniffer dogs. Mm-hmm. What are you going to sniff now? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And are they going to come back to those same towns? No. Okay, so the public demonstration of preparedness by the state and its agents cannot cover the immensity and the seriousness.
We are told that there are actually three separate groups. Looks like splinter, but they are pursuing the same agenda, so to speak. How do we interpret that also? And if you, like you mentioned, this is the tip of a mega problem, and only 31 persons have been picked up.
No, good question. Thank you. These are three groups and they haven't splintered. There are three groups that are competing for the sympathy of their potential supporters. So we've seen two different flags. Okay? Mm-hmm. What will happen post yesterday is that the success of their actions will bring them hopefully together, in which there will be, based on my studies of such movements, there will be a wing that leads the negotiations and the conversations, and then there will be a wing willing and prepared to use violence.
Okay.
The 31 people who were shown on television and the woman who was a member, by sending out a signal that, one person was dead, when groups spill blood, that blood acts as a cohesive bond because they now all realize that they may not survive.
So this is very serious.
This is serious business. And it's been going on for quite a long time.
I'm going to come back to you on the question because you talk about negotiations, which means that is an expectation you have. Is that to say that you expect that at a certain point in time, is it the state that you expect that will sit down with them and negotiate instead of treating them as pure criminals? But before that, I asked you earlier, for example, you said they set fire, or you simply said the things we already know. They set fire, they danced, they attacked and overran 2 police stations, they took away 10 AK-47, rifles, and most important, you say there was no response at all, or the response, which was belated, was weak. This has given credence to the questions that is being asked. Is this really a case of intelligence failure, or this is a ruse? This is actually, something that has been set up for whatever purposes?
I have read people's assessments of what has happened as a possible ruse. Look, if it were to be a ruse, then the short to medium to long-term impact of this ruse, were it to be known, will be much more dangerous than the demand for secessionism.
So they start doing things from 2 a.m. and during the day, it takes us a greater part of the day to successfully round up 31 of them. What sort of security is this? What sort of intelligence is that?
Well, let me play back your own words as a means of answering your question. A couple of weeks ago, I made a similar interview with one of your colleagues, I think Evans Mensah, and I made a strong point that the invincibility around our security agencies, that invincibility is broken. First, relates to over the past decade that our military and intelligence services have been used for actions internally, internal operations that were routinely ought not to have been their remit. So we saw the case in Kaswa about 5-6 years ago. We've seen the bold confrontations of ordinary people resisting the presence of armed security forces during the recently ended voter registration exercise. And we've seen the manner in which, in the Ewutu area, I think, there was this land case a couple of weeks ago where 2 soldiers were arrested, the rest ran away, battered and pleading for their lives, and telling people the order came from the very top, so please don't kill us. And the subsequent excessive response in flying people or people being arrested and flown to Accra. The concerns about the response is that though the intelligence might have been available, the decision-making was horribly slow.
So they say, the police and military say that they had intelligence and had actually foiled an attempt, an arson attempt on the whole central market. And yet, the situation could be this lax for them to operate the next day from 2 a.m. until in the morning and set fire on the roads, burn tires, and be seen in, as it were, uniform, so to speak. And all that period, you say very delayed, and even when the response comes, you say very weak.
Well, let me give 2 points to buttress the argument I'm making about weak response. I guess you've seen the police communication about the possibility of such an attack.
Mm.
Now, if you see the police response, you would notice that the date on that police communication is the 23rd of September, if you can pull it up so that your viewers can see it.
Mm.
I think that response says 23rd, 1455/09/2020. So that the missive or the wireless message went out around 1455 on the 23rd. What it means is that the attacks took place almost 36 clear hours after the communication had gone out.
Mm.
Okay, so it raises further questions, and I do understand the rules argument because the gaps and the failures are way too glaring. But the rules is also a frightening thing to consider.
Mm.
So, did the police not take the intelligence seriously? Okay, now if they did not, then it raises a lot of concerns and some sanctions must be done.
All right. Proceeding.
My final point.
Yeah, okay.
Now, there's been a statement signed by the communications team of both the police service and I think the Ghana Armed Forces.
Yes, I read that out.
Asking for the public to provide information.
That's right.
But there's no hotline.
Mm.
One would have thought
the police. I think the usual numbers are on the letterhead.
Yes, but that's not good enough.
They have the WhatsApp line. They have the emergency line, and they have their.
Like this, you want a WhatsApp line?
Oh,
a WhatsApp line does not work to your.
They have advertised their website, their emails, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of those things on there.
Yes, but it doesn't show seriousness enough. When a crisis like this happens, and once more for me, this is reflective of the failure and the weak response. Okay,
Professor Henning, I'm going to plead with you to indulge us. I will return to why you have an expectation of some negotiation of sort, rather than a clear case of treating those arrested, taking that this is a very genuine and serious situation, as you say, not being treated as the so-called criminals as they would be. But let's first gauge the reactions of the politicians. Sami Jamfi.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's something. Thank you very much. We in the NDC are very worried and disturbed by the armed invasion of parts of the Volta region by these alleged secessionists. Ghana is a peaceful, sovereign republic, and therefore there must not be any space or tolerance for secessionist movements. Such movements, such persons, for me, are criminals and must be treated as such. And so, as a party, we condemn in no certain terms this armed, violent invasion of parts of the Volta region. We think that it is a clear, monumental failure on the part of President Akufo-Addo, his government, and our security agencies to protect the people of the Volta region, particularly the areas where this invasion occurred. Because you see something, we have all voted for a government and we have entrusted to them the responsibility of protecting all of us, the responsibility of protecting the state and protecting the territorial integrity of Ghana is that of the president and his appointees. particularly his regional minister and the regional security council, RECSEC, in the Volta region. They have failed the nation by allowing this brazen display of bravado by these criminals, leading to the loss of life, police officer, I'm told the divisional commander, sustaining injuries, destruction of public property, assault of policemen in uniform, and so on and so forth. And you see, the reason why we are so disappointed in the Akufo-Addo government relative to this incident, something, is because this did not start today. This started long ago. We've seen the signs. The members of these secessionist groups are known. The over 90-year-old Papavi, who is the leader of the Western Togoland, whatever, is known. Their members live in the Volta region. They live in the communities in the Volta region. They are known by their neighbors. They are known by our state security agencies. They operate in the open, like you've shown, today. They operate, hold meetings, and their public advocacy in the open. And so the reason why the activities have been thriving, the activities are fast festering and spiraling beyond our control, is because the Akufo-Addo government has been pampering these criminals. The approach so far has been very lukewarm and lackluster, very nonchalant. It's like they don't care, they are not perturbed about what is happening. Well, in this country, during the voter registration exercise which was conducted between June and August this year, and when it suited their political, agenda, we saw the kind of military deployment they did. Military men they deployed to the Volta region under the guise of the COVID-19 fight. Now, since these secessionist, activities have been going on in the Volta region, we have not seen government display the same level of seriousness in the deployment of the military and other security agencies to fish these criminals out and deal with them drastically in accordance with law. So they are being pampered, they are being aided. And that is why the activities are festering and threatening the stability of the Volta region. And that for us is very, very appalling and disappointing. You see, Samson, some of the questions you have asked here today are very revealing. And I think we need to pay attention to the questions you have asked here. How can a group of thugs armed to the teeth in their hundreds take siege of communities? It started from Mepe, take control of a police station after they overpowered armed policemen on duty, beat the policemen up, strip them naked to their boxer shorts, break the cells there, and, free suspects who were in legal custody, lock the policemen, break into their armory, seize sophisticated weapons, move from Mepe to support their colleagues at Aveime, overpower the policemen there, then they move to the district assembly of North Tonk, ransack the place, attack people. They move into the streets, and with heaps of sand and the burning of ties, block major roads like the Accra Whole Road, Accra Flower Road, and all that. And they spent hours. This is not something which happened within minutes. Hours from 2 a.m. till daybreak. In fact, they mounted these roadblocks, sang these war songs in broad daylight. And yet we did not see any efficient, any robust response from our state security agencies. I mean, how can anybody explain this? So for me, this is not a matter of intelligence failure. We are dealing with a situation which is more complex than some of us think. We are dealing with a situation which potentially has the involvement of state actors. The governmental complicity in this matter, for me, is so glaring. And that is why we must have an independent investigations into this matter and find out what happened. If, according to the voter regional minister, Samson, they had intelligence, they knew that these people were going to block roads. I listened to his interview on Joy FM yesterday. What did they do with that intelligence?
The police say a day before they were planning arson on the whole central market.
You know, that is what they claim. And they say that, oh, they also knew that they were going to block roads and all that, but they didn't know where exactly. You're talking about voter region? I mean, you have intelligence that people are planning to destabilize the region. They are planning to attack security installations. What deployments of our men in uniform that government, you know, do to check this? Surveillance measures. What surveillance measures were put in place to check this? Now we are being told that we are dealing with different groups. We don't know who their sponsors are. We don't know who the masterminds are. We don't know who is training them. We don't know who is sponsoring them. And look at the sophistication they displayed. Never in the history of this country have we seen such display of sophistication and brazenness that they could even overpower the reinforcement mission of the divisional police commander, you know, shoot him. I'm told that he and his other officers sustained injuries. They are hospitalized as we speak and all that. There are questions that need to be answered, and we need to investigate these issues.
You're correct about
and
that.
not take what government and our security agencies
there clearly are questions to be asked. And if you take the Homeland Study Group Foundation, which has gained a lot of notoriety in this regard, in March 2017, 3 members of that group were arrested. Charles Komi Kojuji, who is 78 and founder of the group, 57-year-old Martin Asiama Agbenu, and Divine Odonko, 65 years. They were charged with treason, but in July, the charges were dropped. They were set free and they were asked to go and be of good behavior, we are told. Then in May 2019, 9 members got arrested, again charged with treason. Then in July 2019, the state once again dropped the charges and the 9 were discharged. In November 2019, police on a manhunt for Papavi as a new group emerges, and I'm sure we have followed that. And we have heard about them even attending to being given audiences by chiefs in other parts of the country. Still in November, the Homeland Group emerges and declare independence few meters from the police regional school. They declared independence. Of course, you have seen their flags and other things, billboards that they mount. Then in February of this year, 21 members were arrested while training in the forest at Ketu. 21 of them were arrested whilst they were in training. I'm sure you have seen how they look very mobilized, well organized in that training exercise. So that was in February, they got arrested. Now in March, the state drops the case against the 21. In March, against 20, not 21. Okay. Right, the organizer was kept. Okay, then we have seen them, you know, mount signposts in parts of the country. So, Obi,
before you go,
yes, Obi,
have we seen any successful prosecution of any of these persons who have been arrested?
I've given you the timeline and how they get arrested, and you know the charges get dropped. So, with this at the back of our minds. How did we get here?
Well, thank you, Samson. Good morning to you, viewers and listeners, and to my younger brother. Well, of course, we have to admit that this is a serious security breach. Some persons have been emboldened to the extent of declaring their own state, having their flag, their constitution, whatever. And at the same time, we have to say that there's no rules. It's a bit unfortunate that you have our political friends or our opponents trying to say that this government trying to create this kind of situation so that they will engender instability in their stronghold. These things are not helpful. They are not helpful at all. Indeed, those who are behind all these things, this is what they are looking for. Where, as much as possible, the strong political parties will be fighting each other, blaming each other, and then let them have their own way. This is not helpful at all. If I read some statements from political leaders, including MPs, etc., in one breath, they say that we should beef up security. Another breath, oh, his government itself is instigating all this. It's not helpful at all. The reality is that this group exists, and this group has international connections.
International connections?
Yes, I'm surprised you may not even know. This group has international connections. National security is aware of all these things. Indeed, if you go to the report of so-called Unrepresented Nations and People's Organization, 2017, they are adopting this group, saying that they are being marginalized, they are under siege by government since 2017, so they have to represent them as people without nation, and they have a right to be on their own because the plebiscite was not properly done.
Which group is this you say is adopting them?
It's Unrepresented Nations and People's Organization. There's a report on it in 2017. If you Google Unrepresented Nations and People's Organization and link it to the Homeland Study Group Foundation, you'll find a report there. And to the extent that they even say that it's the MPP which is attacking them, that's why they want to have their own state, whatever. That is the beginning of it. And probably you are talking about, as early as February 2017, he held a press conference. That's a press conference that he chaired, that they wanted independence, there's time for radicals to take over. Meanwhile, if you go to the report, this group was formed in 1994. It was formed in 1994 as a so-called study group, Homeland Study Group. Sometimes they go underground. When it suits them, they come up and say that now we are declaring independence. And so they decided that by May 9, 2017, they should declare independence. And since then, they have done their worst, but for the fact that the security situation or the security agencies have been on top of the job, there would have been much more serious situations than this. As you yourself narrated, there have been several instances where they've been arrested. Some, they are charged, some are granted bail, some are freed for want of prosecution, all those things. As far back as February 2017, when they started, by March, they had been arrested. The three of them, key people that you mentioned, Odonko and Co., and Papavi himself. They were charged with abetment of unlawful training, unlawful assembly, offensive conduct, conducive to a breach of peace, etc., etc. At the end of the day, they were granted bail. Papavi was freed. Others are being tried. We also got to know that they even had a secret camp for training. And when the national security zoomed in on them, it happened that they were using the name of Ghana Army to recruit people. That, oh, Ghana Army is recruiting people to train them, so come on board. That's how come when they invaded the forest and arrested the 21. Upon interrogation, the 20 were found not to know anything about this thing, except that their leaders had organized them and said that this is in the name of Ghana. You understand? So obviously, we have a situation on our hands which we should deal with. In one breath, you are saying that there should be no knee-jerk reaction. In another breath, this is a ruse. In one, we should be consistent in what we do and say, and have a concerted effort to address this situation. If we jump into the political arena, we have to blame you, we have to blame you, we are not solving any problem. After 94, we were not in charge of Ghana. And since 94, if they have been around, why would you then say that it's a Kufuor's group who are trying to set up people to just divert attention or creating security?
But the question is, from the narration you have given, the narrative you have given, and the fact that they have been known all this while.
National security is very much aware of them.
Okay, very much aware of them.
Yes.
can there be an excuse for what happened yesterday?
Well, there's always security situation which may have been overlooked. As you yourself said, the critical information they had was the attack on the market, burning down the market, and they addressed it. These people then at 2 a.m. decided to then just vandalize anything that they would come across, and they ended up setting up a roadblock. It's been quelled, they've been arrested, they will deal with them. That's how I wanted to see it. If we create an impression, that's why I'm saying that we should be consistent in what we're doing. If at one point you say that government is trying to prop them so that they will create instability, another breath, government shouldn't be hard on them.
Right.
Another breath, in any way, in any case, this is a rule of law. We are in a democracy.
Right.
You don't just say that I've identified these people there, I'm going to kill all of them to solve the problem.
So let me go to Professor Kwesi
don't worry, I haven't finished at all.
Unless I'm like done with you, the politicians. I'm going to question for the way forward. The way forward. So since you said you haven't finished, I'll give you a minute, conclude, and then I get to Sami Jemfi also. So
what I'm saying is that those who have been arrested will be put before court.
Right.
If there's a case against them, they'll be tried. If it's treason, they'll face the full rigors of the law.
Yeah.
The consequences will be very bitter for them. But at the same time, we should be careful not to say that government is weak, so show your might. The next day, you tell us that the whole village has been wiped out, and it's just to show that you are against your opponents. We should be very careful because this is a very delicate matter.
All right. Okay.
Even though these people are preaching secession, it's a very delicate matter.
All right.
Because for all intents and purposes, there are not many, even though they have international links and everything. And you should be careful in not targeting innocent people simply because you say that this is what the people want.
Yes.
From Kulungu, they are claiming from Kulungu all the way down.
I see. Interesting. Yes.
Oh, I'll show you the map and everything.
Sometimes Honorable Obiamwa makes a point that I think is very revealing and instructive. He says that what happened clearly shows that some people have been emboldened to engage in what they did. So
you are picking my words to be able to look for something.
What accounts for that? How were they emboldened? You see, when people engage in seditious and treasonable acts,
they are arrested,
openly,
left
off the hook, left off the hook. You see, when you fail to punish wrongdoing, you embolden wrongdoers. And so clearly, what you have said shows clearly that you are to be blamed for this, the escalation of the problem.
Okay.
You said that this thing started way back in 1994 and all that. We have never seen this group display openly this level of, thuggery, militancy and all that. And finally, you see, this is what some people don't want us to see.
Were you supposed to come in this
If
way?
this was happening in the Ashanti region,
yes,
Honorable Obiamwa, you know that by now these miscreants would have been fished out and they would have been dealt with drastically.
Why do you seek to achieve by
Because you think that the voter region is a stronghold of the NDC. And therefore, a state of insecurity and instability inures to your electoral advantage. That is why you are looking on consent.
At the same time,
yes.
At the same time, you say that some people understand.
That is what
because they are your opponents.
No.
You shouldn't even be going there. Please,
the people of voter
don't do politics this way.
Support what is happening.
Don't do politics this way. It doesn't help our politics at all.
And
don't do politics this way. We shouldn't allow this.
Why have you been leaving them?
We shouldn't allow this. That if it were Ashanti region, you would have done it this way because it's voter region. Don't do politics that way.
So it's not helpful.
Hold on.
It is so glaring.
Even though, as we have been informed, they get arrested and get left off. If you listen to Obi's submission clearly, it's not all the time that all of them are left off. Some of them are left because, as he says, due process must be undergone. And you don't just pick people and dump them. Of course, you also want successful prosecution.
Yes.
So as we know, and I'm going to Professor Kwesi now, there are 45. Sorry, there are 45.
Surety for him.
Gentlemen, there are 45 of these guys belonging to this group or the group with this kind of agenda, who are, as we speak, facing trial in Tamale, in Wa, in Ho, and in Accra, in all 45 of them.
Exactly.
Now, Professor Enin, the way forward, when you say you have expectations of negotiations, I believe those who deal with some of these things in the international level will agree with you that when you have like a community and when you have people in large numbers, you don't just go the way of treating them with criminal law, but since there are sentiments and there's a history behind the things they do, you need to at least give them a hearing and find a resolution. How exactly do you mean when you say you have an expectation of some negotiations?
Well, after the emotions die down, the sense that there has been a concerted failure, the initial response or emotional response would be to say, look, the state has been humiliated, let's go in and wipe them out. But why pull out and fight? And dependent on the type of response that we initiate, it can either escalate or de-escalate the problem. Looking at where we are located and the challenges that we face, security-wise, coming round to talk, and I'm not expecting a government minister or deputy minister to lead that process. The initial process will be led or will be some backdoor process, okay, where we begin to talk, identify the critical issues, and how we negotiate around them. If the narratives that we are hearing from the secessionist groups, that is, if we do a discourse analysis of what their issues are, then it allows the state to come round by using its negotiators or mediators, whichever word we want to use, to begin to move towards each other. A brutal military response alone will not help. Finally, I think the security forces will be very happy where our political leaders to stop the partisanship with respect to issues that we can classify as threatening our existence, so that the message is clear, the message is consistent, the message is supportive, so that as a nation, there is consistency and agreement that this is how we deal with issues that threaten our survival and our life. Because you see, the people we are dealing with are
Professor Enin, let me understand. Yes. As we speak, and as I have just confirmed for the attention of all of you and everybody else, there are 45 of these members on trial, facing trial in Tamale, in Wa, in Ho, and in Accra already.
31 were arrested yesterday.
And 31 was arrested yesterday. Now, is the suggestion that you go into negotiations with them and allow expressions of emotions and try to assuage all their fears and everything else, and then they go back to, continue their life? Or after that, those who have actually committed criminal harm and various acts of, crime will be prosecuted?
No, in the negotiation process,
some of them have absconded.
There is give and take.
So not all the 45 people are.
You will weigh
is not part of the 45.
What you would seek to achieve were you to use just the law to punish people.
Some will say that will be entertaining and rather emboldening them for future, resurgence.
Yeah. No, that's not true. The history of secessionism and the way that these issues have been resolved does not speak to that. In Liberia, in Sierra Leone, in La Côte d'Ivoire, in Mali, and now increasingly in Burkina Faso. Talking to those who feel excluded and have listed arms against the state does not show weakness on the part of the state. Far from it.
The politicians in the studio are agreed, the two of them are added them in one mind, that they haven't gotten to the stage to be referred to in the same level as the Liberian situation and the others that you are talking about.
Oh yes, but we shouldn't wait for it to get to that stage.
Yes, they are saying that's the reason they should not be treated with kid gloves, and that they should be crushed.
I will tell you, and I will have this conversation in 2 or 3 years' time, and we'll go back to the drawing board and start from where we are starting from. You and I have had these conversations about small arms and the weakness in the law.
Right.
About exclusionary politics leading to people feeling left out. We've spoken about the Fulani case, about victimhood, exclusion, and livelihood. So we need to be bold and to say,
all right,
let's take the interventionary steps that will stop a crisis from escalating.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Kwesi Enin, for your usual insights on these very technical and sophisticated matters. But because of the feeling that I have that they are giving vent to in the studio, I'd like them to give me like 30 seconds each on your last point, because they seem to completely disagree with you as in the politicians.
With all due respect, I don't agree with
you don't?
I don't. That
they should just be treated as criminals?
No, that they feel excluded and that we should sit down with them, and then otherwise in 3 years' time we'll be talking about the consequences. What are their grievances? Their main thing is that we still want to join Togo. The plebiscite was not done well, even though the figures really show what happened. And then they bring in other things. If you come to an area, we are neglected. If you come to an area, we don't have facilities. So the whole country, where people don't have facilities, even if concentrating all their actions, they were not being part of the plebiscite. If you look at the figures and the towns, the communities involved, they were not part of it. But now they are using that as a basis, and they talk about exclusion, talk about lack of amenities. It's like a cool leader just trying to rattle something just to have basis and grounds for his actions. So we should be very careful. Otherwise, from Kulungungu to Keta, you have people with grievances. You have people who talk about, we don't have water, we don't have toilet, we don't have this, so we are no more part of Ghana. We should rise. If you don't listen to us, then we will take arms. We can't run a country this way. And the Constitution says that this is a unitary state. Anybody who tries to create federalism is against the Constitution.
Okay, and let's hear Samitu. But before you do that, a colleague of yours, a lawyer, says that this is Frederick sending the message from Lakeside Estate. He says, I think as a state, we have failed to appreciate the emotional aspect of conflicts. If a crime is committed and the culprit must be dealt with in accordance with law, but let us not be oblivious of their consistent complaints. I think the state should give a listening ear to them and consider a possible negotiation. This is what you guys are against.
There are certain things that are subject to mediation and negotiation, in my opinion. But there are other things that cannot and should not be subject matters of mediation and negotiation. One of such things is treason or sedition. When the territorial integrity of a country is threatened by rebels, you don't negotiate with them. You stamp it out. This, let's sit down with them and talk to them and all that is what has brought us to where we are
You use
today.
the word rebels.
Yes, that's who they are.
In the clear sense of that, we have known rebels that have sat at the negotiation table.
That is when sovereign countries have allowed, such situation to degenerate. Okay, and then there is need for some peace resolutions. But at this level, the situation can be contained. They can be stamped out if we are committed. Okay, and I agree with Honorable Obiamwa when he says that Ghana is a unitary state and we must not tolerate
according to
the activities of this group.
Article 4 of the Constitution, we are a unitary state. Exactly. That's who we are.
And I think that
it is only the president and acting through a commission that can create further regions.
And I think that he should give this advice, this counsel to Dr. Lecha, the regional minister, and his boss, President Akufo-Addo. If they adopt this same posture, if they adopt this same stance, and put that into action,
I work for him.
We will succeed in stamping out the activities of these.
Thank you. Okay, so James Kobna Bonfe Kabila, CPP, says that this matter is a clear national security and intelligence challenge, not failure. But security is only one aspect of national socio-political economic life. In Ghana, the grounds and grievances on which they argue are prevalent and pervasive in every part of the country. So everyone should get up and charge to succeed. We need to be very sober and dispassionate in discussing this matter. Granted, every lawbreaker would give cogent and perhaps convincing grounds for their actions. In security commentary, we can't degenerate or exacerbate the situation with reckless or careless expressions. I'll return to read some more of the messages that you are sending in. This is NewsFile. It's your most authoritative news analysis show. Then when we return, we will be asking the question, is the NDC right? And those that support it, that the EC has committed a failure of monumental proportions in the voter exhibition exercise. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is NewsFile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on NewsFile, we put Ghana first. And my guests in the studio, Obiamwa and Sami Jemfi. We had Professor Kwesi Enin via Zoom. On the next subject of the EC and the exhibition exercise, which is scheduled to end tomorrow, we will have Dr. Srebo Kweku of the Electoral Commission, Director of Elections, also joining us. Now, there's this gentleman in the Volta region who is a teacher and who wrote and seemed to agree with the posture that the two of you take. And he says that so far what has happened appears that we're treating them with kid gloves and they should be dealt with the full force of the law very quickly so that we don't get this continuing. And that is Fiaoife Asiwome writing in that regard. I've got just a couple of your messages to share and then we'll continue. Ilyasu in Tamale says, this Sami Jemfi say governmental complicity. When will this thing stop? And this is petty. Is he not aware that there are rumors out there that some NDC people support them? Okay, so
they are afraid to touch them.
All right.
Because voting, they will vote for them.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So I think I can pause here. Let's go straight to the issue of the Electoral Commission. And if we may hear the President Mahama raising the issues first, you would also have heard Elvis Afriyie Ankra, who is Director of Elections of the NDC, also raising issues about the situation. Member of Parliament, Ernest Nobe Ashaman, also reported of his name getting missing on the register. Of course, we heard that the running mates of the NDC
And the chairman of the MPP.
Nana, yes, Opoko Adjman also had her name missing initially, but all of those have been
ID number
rectified.
duplicated. That
ID number duplicated. Yeah. ID number duplicated. Let's just take a listen, watch this, and then we'll get to the discussion.
We in the NDC have exhibited restraint at all times in this electoral process. Even now, we're committed to doing so. But let me serve notice, once again, that we will not accept the result of a flawed election. We will certainly not look on. Neither will we shirk our civic responsibility and allow the EC, whether by ill intent or sheer incompetence, to usurp the people's mandate in the December 7 poll. The Electoral Commission must take immediate steps to rectify and sanitize the register and re-exhibit it to afford the voting public and all stakeholders an opportunity to verify their particulars in the voters' register before it is finalized. My brothers and sisters, this moment demands of us to act with patriotic zeal to preserve the peace and stability of our beloved nation, Ghana. In the central region, glaring cases of duplication of card numbers were also recorded in 14 centers in the Commander Edina Eguafo Ebrem constituency. And one of such cases involved my running mate, Professor Nana Jane Opoko Adjman. She went to her center to check her name. She sent somebody to check her name, and they said she had to come herself because her number was duplicated. Somebody else had the same number as her. And so she had to come and collect the card and take it to the district office to go and sort it out. And so she had to drive from Commander to Elmina, where the district office of the EC is. And at Elmina, they took the old card from her, destroyed it, and replaced it with a new card. I mean, being who she is, she could make the trip to Elmina. What of the poor farmer in the village who comes and finds out that their card is not valid? Are they going to travel to Elmina to replace the card?
Our observations show widespread anomalies at various exhibition centers across the country. So far, our officials and agents have reported anomalies from all regions, including, except Aswasi in the Ashanti region. So what I'm saying is that there are anomalies everywhere, but in Ashanti region, it is only in Aswasi that we are seeing major anomalies. So you can do your own analysis. This has already given us cause to believe that the anomalies and distortions in the register may be deliberate, as it is widespread in our strongholds. EC officials were caught on video late at night, printing and laminating an unspecified number of voter ID cards. Obviously, this is one of the modern rigging techniques the EC has deployed going into this election. Our suspicion is that either the new ID cards were being printed for non-Ghanaians who are not eligible to vote, or persons who did not register at all.
My name. You see, the disparity here, or the dishonesty that I may say about the Electoral Commission is that you claim I was lying and that 21,000 people could not be missing on the register. But in your statement, you said there could be, incomplete transfer of data. Incomplete transfer of data, you are implicating yourself.
Regarding the allegation by the Ashiaman MP to the effect that his name has been deleted from the voters register, let me state emphatically that it is false. His name has not been deleted nor expunged from the voters register. Secondly, as being alleged that the names of 21,000 registered voters have been deleted from the voters register, that again is false. And we have evidence to that effect.
normal challenges with registration. The ID card is important. It facilitates the registration. But you can vote without the ID card. If there's something that you don't understand, you can also call request for after meeting and we'll meet. But the only assurance I want to say is that the challenges are there. We appreciate them, but they are part of the exhibition. That's why we do exhibition and we rectify all the errors and those things. By the time we finish the final result, we'll have a credible one.
All right, so you had a number of voices, of course, including officers of the EC, Sylvia Norde, sounding very much like Jean Mensah in their voice, some identical resemblance I seem to detect there. And then Dr. Sribo Kwaku himself was the last to speak. So, yes, 60,000 registered voters got duplicate ID numbers. So what? Dr. Sribo Kwaku says, that's the reason we are doing exhibition. So why is the NDC, you know, the presidential candidate had to postpone his tour of the Boronhu region, and then the vice presidential candidate, the running mate also had to pause. All of them come to Accra. Then you organize a big event and talk about all of these, and also allege that there had been padding of the register, so to speak, that the numbers that registered that you were giving when the registration was complete have suddenly increased, some places so exponentially that you were so worried about. Let me welcome Dr. Sribo Kwaku to the discussion. Doc, thank you for making time to join us.
Thank you, my brother, and good morning to everybody.
Thank you very much. So can you put your complaint in perspective for our viewers to understand why you come to the conclusion that the EC has demonstrated monumental incompetence? And let's put you to the test, whether it is not rather you who have demonstrated monumental incompetence by the allegations that you raise.
Thank you very much, Samson. First of all, it's important to make the point that we have come this far in our democratic journey and experiment because as stakeholders, we have all collectively ensured that elections in this country are free and fair. And this year, we have another duty to safeguard the gains we have made and consolidate our democracy by ensuring that the process is transparent, free and fair. And this is why anytime we observe developments that are worrying, that undermine the integrity of the electoral process, we raise the issues in the media and the public space so that they can be discussed dispassionately and addressed for us to have free and fair elections, for us to have elections where every eligible voter is allowed to vote and not disenfranchised.
In the circumstances, you have not just raised anomalies, but you have elevated what you have seen beyond its suspicion and say there's a collusion.
Yeah.
The EC and the MPP to rig the elections. Simply,
the issues we have raised are in threefold.
Okay, so let's hear them.
The first one has to do with the illegal and secret printing of voter ID cards by the Electoral Commission.
Illegal and secret printing?
Yes, without the involvement of political parties. The second one has to do with serious procedural breaches by the Electoral Commission relative to the ongoing voter exhibition exercise that undermine the integrity of the ongoing voter exhibition exercise. And the third and final one has to do with widespread and monumental anomalies that we have discovered in the ongoing voter exhibition exercise that give us genuine cause for concern about the credibility of the voter register being compiled for this year's general elections. Let me take the issues one by one and explain.
Yes, so illegal and secret printing of ID cards.
Yes.
Without
the involvement
parties
of political parties.
Okay.
Now
you tell us why it is illegal and why you call it secret.
Okay. First of all, per our electoral laws and systems, when we conduct voter registration exercises and we are done, the processes that follow subsequently are deduplication, adjudication, the generation of a provisional register, and the exhibition of same. After exhibition, anomalies that are identified are addressed, and the final register is produced and given to the political parties.
Okay, so you just said in the exhibition, anomalies are addressed, and then you get the final register.
And I'm going to address that issue.
Okay, so let's go.
Now, when you are done with a registration exercise, our electoral system does not allow the Electoral Commission to surreptitiously, in secrecy, print ID cards without the involvement of political parties. Because if you look at the way our electoral processes are designed, at the voter registration stage, political party agents are there to monitor. Okay. And so if you conduct an exercise with us that can say, and if there are challenges after, okay, what you do is that you inform stakeholders, you inform the political parties. And we've conducted a registration exercise. The cards that we gave some of these registrants who joined long queues from morning, sometimes till evening, we have found out that some of these cards are defective because the voter ID numbers on the cards are duplicates. And so how do we solve it? Even if you don't think that it is necessary to involve us in the solution, at least you must tell us the solution you have adopted for the problem and get us to participate, monitor, and ensure that the rectification of that problem is being done in accordance with law. When we concluded the voter registration exercise by the 8th of August, we started getting reports from across the country that the EC was calling voter ID card holders to return their cards for new ones. We got complaints from Esunafo, we got complaints from so many constituencies. In the beginning, we didn't believe it because we've never seen something like that happen in our electoral process since 1992. Only for us to come across a video on 8th September this year, which captures EC officials in the Ablikuma Central constituency, in their offices, printing and laminating cards without the involvement or the presence of the people they are printing the cards for or political party agents. And until that time, we had not been informed by the Electoral Commission that there had been any challenge of duplicate voter ID numbers.
It is secret because we were not informed.
Yes, and it is secret because it is not being done in the open. And it is being done without the presence of the people the cards are being printed for. And without the knowledge of political parties.
It is secret because you were not informed. It is not secret because it was not being done in the open. It was being done in EC office. That's what you said.
Yes.
Doing their activities in their office cannot be said to be secret. Then you say it's illegal. When you say it's illegal, you mean a law doesn't allow an activity.
Which part of the law?
So can we say which law doesn't allow the EC to print ID cards to replace duplicates?
First of all,
ones that are not
First of all, there are ways by which voter ID cards are issued to people in this country.
Right.
Whether at a registration exercise
or the EC's office,
limited registration or continuous registration.
Yes, if I went to the EC's office,
yes,
they will issue me a voter
to replace your missing card.
You will not be there. You will not be there as a party, and that will not be secret.
No, but you will be there.
Yes, I will be there.
Your card will not be printed for you in your absence. It doesn't happen in our electoral system like that.
No, but I thought sometimes you go, like if you lost your card,
yes,
you go, they give you you go pay at the GCB,
yes,
and then you go make your thing. You go away, later they do it for you. You go and pick it up.
You will be there. You will be verified even before your card is reprinted, laminated, and given to you.
Okay.
So the practice of printing voter ID cards for people in their absence,
what's wrong with that?
And in the absence of political parties, is a problem. First of all, let me show you why the absence of political parties is a problem here. You see, they are allowed to only print cards for people in the presence of those people and in the absence of political parties when it is about continuous registration or replacement of card.
And
what we are talking about here
what suspicion does
the
this give rise to?
suspicion is that if during this secret printing of cards, they re-registered new people and issued them with cards, political parties will not be in any position to know.
But you already have the register.
You have a register which is fraught with widespread and monumental anomalies such as missing names. Now, when I go to an exhibition center that my name is not in the register, once I have a voter's ID card, I'm entitled to be given an inclusion form. So if they illegally register people secretly in their office, and you don't have an opportunity to check that, you don't even know the number of cards they've printed, who it has been distributed to, you can track that. And I take that card and go to an exhibition center at a polling station, I am entitled to be given an inclusion form to enter my particulars into the inclusion form as though I was registered during the main registration exercise, even though I was registered illegally.
So that's number one.
That's number one.
Number two, serious procedural breaches.
And to wrap up number one, the serious issue there is that number one, if they have nothing to hide, why were political parties not informed? Why were we not asked to deploy polling agents to monitor the process?
No,
How many people?
They were taking these cards to the specific centers where the duplications have occurred.
They are distributing it at their district office.
And in those polling stations, you have representatives.
No, they are not distributing. You see, they even started the printing and distribution of cards before the voter exhibition exercise.
Okay. Now to the next. You say serious procedural breaches.
Yes, but you see, the serious issue about this secret
we are
printing
dealing with
of cards,
time because things will come up and then you will have to respond.
You see, the serious issue here, okay, maybe since Mr. Strebo is here, he will raise the issue of, even if you have a defective card, you can vote. That is neither here nor there.
We'll ask him those questions. You say there were procedural breaches.
The procedural breaches is that when you compile a provisional register or when you conduct a voter registration exercise, before you give the provisional registers to the political parties and you exhibit it for, voters to go and check their particulars, you must have concluded deduplication. The reason why that is important is that the biometric system is designed to pick out all duplicates in terms of fingerprint data. When it picks it out, it goes to a committee who evaluates the evidence and take a decision as to whether or not such person should be deleted from the main register and put on a multiple register. Now, if you do an exhibition exercise without concluding that process, it means that something, you can go to your polling station, check your name will be in the main register. And yet, after deduplication is concluded after exhibition, your name will be moved on the multiple register. So you may not be able to vote on election day because the deduplication, which should have been done before the provisional register was exhibited, was not done. The second procedural lap is that in conducting a voter exhibition exercise, there must be necessarily the biometric verification devices which will be authenticating or verifying us on the day of election. Because we have a system of no verification, no vote in our electoral laws.
Okay.
And so it is not enough for you to go to a center, check your particulars are there, and yet you are not verified. Because
let's deal with widespread, like you said, widespread and monumental anomalies.
So
I think that's
so the key point here, since because of time, the key point there again is that the EC was giving money, our money, to procure 75,000 BVDs, which they say they have procured, yet they have deployed only 5,000 of that. You go to so many centers today, they are not BVDs.
They have deployed 5,000 of that to
just 30, out of 33,400 polling stations
for the exhibition.
Yes, shouldn't it be in their interest for them to test this equipment, allow people in the provisional register to authenticate their minutiae before the election day so that nobody is disenfranchised? But we have seen cases where people go, their names and particulars are in the register, but the machine rejects them, meaning that their biodata has been mismatched or swapped.
Okay, so
now
so
the issue of the widespread and monumental anomalies. You see, people say that, the reason why we do voter exhibition is to identify anomalies and address them. That is true.
You said so yourself.
Yes, that is true. But there are two issues here. When the voter exhibition is not done well, when it is not done with the benefit of a concluded deduplication exercise, when it is being done without BVD machines, then that exhibition exercise is robbed of the internal remedial systems that check these anomalies.
Okay, now hold it there for me. No, it's okay. No, hold it there. Hold it there.
There are serious. Can I just conclude this?
No, hold it there
in just 1 minute.
Okay,
I can do that in 1 minute. 2, we are talking about the magnitude and the nature of these anomalies. They are unprecedented. And if you look at the limited time we have, you look at the fact that presidential candidates must file their nominations between 5th and 9th October. And you look at the wide scale, and unprecedented anomalies we're talking about.
Is it not isolated polling stations in constituencies
Randy,
that you refer to in your press conference where President Mahama spoke?
In every constituency, there are huge, monumental anomalies.
No,
in some cases,
you cannot be saying that.
I can give you specifics.
Those that you have a fact, just read them.
Okay,
you stated them.
If you go to Narang Sago Primary School in Binduri, not a single person is on the exhibited register.
So that is one place.
Yeah, they printed a blank sheet and
yes. Mention the next, yeah.
Templelim Primary School in Binduri, Kumpal Guga Primary, if I get the names right, the wrong, they should forgive me. In Binduri, they registered 428 and 392 people respectively. Not a single person is on the register.
That's right.
In 18 constituencies in the Binduri, in the same Binduri, right. 6,341 people don't have their names there. In Drapa, 2,057 people don't have their names on the register. In Accra, Klote Koli, 2,054 people don't have their names on the register. In Krowo, 2,453 people are affected by duplicated card numbers. In Ashamai, as we speak, even after they replace the first register where they didn't have the name of the MP and about 21,000 people, the register they are exhibiting now doesn't have the names of 7,000 people.
Okay, thank you.
That is monumental.
No, hold on.
And you have few days.
No, we are talking about how many constituencies and polling centers across the country.
So more than 200 constituencies.
So this will be a fraction.
No,
just hold it. Just hold it. Now let's
not giving me the time to, because we don't obviously have the time.
Enough time.
I know, but I'm trying to say that.
Now let's go to Dr.
Sribo.
Dr. Sribo Okoku. These issues that are being raised, of course, Sami has not pointed me to the illegality of what he said. He has not pointed me to specific breach of any law, but I will not do too much of a legal discussion here. Right. So let's take it one by one. You said you identified 60,000 or more deduplications. What does that mean? Duplicate.
And that is not true. It's far more.
Yes. Sorry.
Far more.
What does that mean, and how do you cure that? Are you allowed to go through that process without doing what he speaks about, the deduplication, and without the involvement of the political parties?
Yeah, something. Good morning and regards to everybody. I have a summary of some of the challenges we had in 2012. So I want to send it to Odami so that at a point in time you project it so that people will appreciate.
Okay, and that's for the purpose of making the point where Sami says this is unprecedented, right?
Yes.
That's I'm saying, so that if we project that, you know some of the programs that we are talking about and how we address them in 2012.
Great. Okay, now let's go on.
I'll order them to Odami.
All right.
So that he'll find what we're getting it.
Okay.
But I'm happy, and the other side to it is that it is normal mistrust of minority parties against the Electoral Commission of Ghana. When they are in the other side, the Electoral Commission doesn't do anything good. But when they come to power, it's a different ballgame. So we know all these things, but the most important thing is that in each of the anomalies, there are procedures that we use legitimately to address them. That's my preamble.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the deduplication aspect that he's talking about, I don't know whether they are also aware that we are printing the main registers in the absence. I don't know whether that one they are okay with that. The main registers for all the centers that we are printing, they are not involved. So they have no qualms when we are printing the registers, but they have qualms when we are printing ID cards. That is another issue. Now, when the video came first, the voiceover was that we are doing illegal registration. Now that one, nobody's talking about that. Mm. Now they have accepted that it was rather the elimination of the ID cards. Now this is how the whole thing is. We did the registration using different kits, which was not online. So the system were generating their ID numbers independently. Now when they are uploaded onto the data center, then the system will identify the duplicates. Mm-hmm. Then the system itself will correct the anomaly by generating new ID cards.
Okay.
So if you go to the database, the new ID cards have been generated because now all this data have been brought into the data center.
Composites.
So the data identifies the duplicates and regenerate the ID cards. Mm. Now when they did that, it prints a list of people who have been affected. Then the ID cards are printed at the head office. When they are printed, so you take a sheet is about maybe A4. Then about 10 or 12 or some will be printed on it. Mm-hmm. Then we send them to the districts through the region. The region will disengage them and laminate them and add the list of people who have been affected and send to the exhibition centers where the political parties have their reps. So in most cases, if you go to the field, it's the parties who identify the people involved for them to come from the ID card.
Okay.
So I can assure you that if you go to those centers, the parties at the exhibition centers have no problems. Normally, it is the people who are at the top who will make the allegation and the rest, but the cooperation at the police stations, they are completely different things. So that's the explanation, and it is not against any law.
So on producing the composite register and the system being self-correcting, identifies the duplicates and then corrects them, then you say the new ID cards are generated. Now, when they are generated, those that are affected must return the one they have, then you take it and cancel and give them the new one. How are they supposed to know that their names have been that affected, or you just expect that if they don't go for exhibition, they don't get to know?
That's what I said, that the parties at the exhibition, they themselves help us to identify them and they come for their cards. Okay. And let me also put it that something you yourself, as I speak to you, you wouldn't know whether your 2012 card was a duplicate, whether 2016 card was a duplicate, and if whether current one is a duplicate, because you will use it to vote without any challenge. Mm-hmm. So the Electoral Commission tells you that your ID card is duplicate, so come and replace it. You wouldn't know.
Okay.
But because you seamlessly cast your vote without any challenge, so the ID card issue of being duplicate or not has no effect on the person's eligibility to vote. Mm. So unless you are informed, you wouldn't be aware.
I see. Now, comparatively, 60,000 duplicates. You say that's not sort of a monumental failure as President Mahama presents it. You promise us that we're going to this new, sophisticated, better, well-improved system, and here we are, 60,000 duplicates. That we are told is unheard of.
Comes the registration ends after exhibition and after the corrections. So if we have gone through all these processes and these challenges are there, then I think we can now raise them. Mm. But as I said, the system is correcting itself.
Okay.
So the system has identified the challenges, because that's what I said, because the IDs were generated offline. One machine wouldn't know what the other machine is doing. So it's only when they are put together and they enter the database. And that's what the system is to do, the regeneration. So I would wish something, if you have time, you can go to one of such places and you see how the system is addressed at the exhibition center.
Right.
So the system would that regenerate itself.
So our representatives in Parliament gave you sufficient money for the purchase of, is it 75,000 BVDs? Their concern is that you had exhibition in 33,000 centers and you deployed only 5,000 BVDs. And as you hear President Mahama say, that is going to give us potential big problem on election day, because people who are going through the exhibition are not being verified. How do you respond to that?
Something, the essence of verification is for you to vote. So we only use exhibition to pilot it. If you last year, 2019, we did exhibition without any BVD at the centers, but people voted. So we are only piloting the new equipment at 15% of the centers.
Okay.
So we decided to, even the machine that we use for registration, we piloted it at only the regional capitals, the BVRs. We only piloted at the regional capitals.
Okay.
Before we use for registration. So this time we decided that let's pilot it at 12,000 centers, that's 15%. And even in selection, we said that there were some places that have huge numbers of traumatic fingers. So that should be the first criteria to select. Then we also look at places which are highly populated. So we are only piloting it. The essence of the BVR is for the election. That's why it is multiple of the polling stations. So that every polling station will have one backup. So that in case there's any failure, that one comes in. We are even going to buy more. Because we are now raising the number of polling stations from 33,000 to 40,000.
So you are doing a pilot of the BVDs.
Exactly.
A pilot of the BVDs therefore means that you don't have to bring all the BVDs out, to test.
That is not the case.
That is exactly what we're doing.
Okay. Now,
what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we target the 15%.
Right. Thank you. Now, this very.
And to me, even 100 would have been good enough for the test. 100.
Okay. Now, my last question for now to you will be one of the serious issues they raised, an issue that was raised that initially anybody hearing it was alarmed, was that the numbers of registered voters people registered at the close of the process that you gave to them, they have found that some of them have increased.
They've been padded.
Yeah, so padded. Can you give us the explanation to that? How come those numbers have increased after you gave them the list?
I think an example was given in Aswasi. So I want to respond to Aswasi, which will explain the others.
Okay.
Something, if you remember, we did the registration at each of the registration centers for 6 days. Whether it was clustering or facing, every registration center had 6 days. MA Primary School as Kwara Mampong registered 385 for the 6 days. Something you also remember that we did registration at secondary schools. And we said that those secondary schools that don't have registration centers, in the normal circumstances, would have registered at the nearby polling stations. So because of the COVID restrictions, we were going to register them and allot them to their nearby polling stations, if you remember that. So the Kumasi Academy is a secondary school in Kumasi Academy. I believe you have heard of it.
Right.
The first phase of the secondary school, we registered 260 something. I'm not so sure of the figure. I don't have it with me now. Then we went there again for second phase because we did 2 phases. We registered 699. Then we did mop up there. We registered 294. Then we also 21 people registered at the district because if you remember, we said we were registering the vulnerables at the district and assigned them to their police station of choice. That one's also registered 21. So MA Primary School, which had 385, now has 1,606. And each of the residents I've mentioned about, the political parties were there. They were giving end of life report. The end of day report listed everybody who registered, the date and the time the person registered. So if the political parties put all these things together, they should have the figures that I'm talking about. So that is how it is. So if you pick the number at that center alone, it will be misleading. Because if it goes to the secondary school, that secondary school figure would have been added. Some people registered in the district offices, the figure would have been added. But in each case, whether at the secondary school, whether at the district office, whether at the main police station, the political parties have end of day report. So they should put them together and they'll get their figures.
Okay. Now, Dr. Sribokoku, hold on briefly for me. And I'm coming to Obiamwa, and he has some of the, previous figures that he would show us. But in a minute, Sami, don't you find, listening to the explanations that Dr. Sribokoku gives, and the Electoral Commission had also given earlier by way of the statements, 2 statements that he issued earlier, that your claims are pretty much baseless?
Not at all.
Because if you raised an alarm that the register is being padded, it's either you also didn't understand the process.
Not at all.
You were incompetent at appreciating the process, or you were up to mischief. Because the number you get at the close of registration is likely to increase because of the registrations that were done outside of those centers. How do you respond to that?
Not at all. On the contrary, we are very competent.
Okay, so that particular
and we know what we are talking. Let me deal with this particular one. I will deal with the other falsehood he has peddled.
Yeah, the issue of pardon.
The issue of pardon. Let's take Asawase. The figures he gave you, 200 and something, 699, 294, and 21 people who registered at the district office. It doesn't give you a figure above 1,300. Yet, we have identified in our letter to the EC additional names of 3,901. Look, he's talking about secondary schools. Let's talk about Asawase. If you go to Sakafia Islamic, 203 names have been added. What secondary school is there? If you go to Galilee Church, 31 names.
You are saying that you know for a fact
that
this school does not exist.
I'm saying that the 203 names have been added to the register. Yet, there is no secondary school in that polling station that they conducted registration and have added that number to this one.
There were people who registered in the offices.
The district office, we have the printouts because we had agents there. Few people, like the place he spoke of. 21, few people registered. We are talking about hundreds of names being added to the register. All the figures he gave you, if you put everything together, it is 1,300. In the letter that we have sent to them, supported by indisputable evidence, we have counted 3,901, almost 4,000 names.
So when you were raising this
issue, not being truthful.
When you were raising this issue, you raised a general issue and said the numbers have increased.
Yes.
To suggest that to have the number increase, something criminal ought to have happened.
The increase.
Meanwhile, you know for a fact that the numbers are bound to increase.
Let me show you the mistake
because of the registrations that were done at the district and in various
because you are proceeding on the assumption that we did not take into cognizance registration done at the district offices and the secondary schools before we made that allegation. We took that into account. And so when we say that numbers have been padded, we are not saying that it is not to the exclusion of those additional registration exercises which we did.
So are you proving this?
We have written letters. Klote, we've written letters. Asawase, we've written letters on the padded figures. And we have given them indisputable evidence. We've listed the polling stations. Our daily printouts show that we registered so and so number. If you add the people we registered from the district office, it comes to this.
Okay.
Even if you add the number of people who registered in secondary schools, it comes to this. Yet we are counting over 4,000 extra names. What is the explanation?
For one polling station.
Not one polling station, for the entire constituency. And we have broken that down into polling stations.
And those people.
And so he should revise his notes because the figures he has given us on NewsFile only explains 1,300. That is even if we did not take into account those additional registers, which we have done.
Hold on.
But there are so many other things he has said. But my senior brother will have to.
Dr. Kweku, I'm coming back to you. I'm sorry.
I deal with the issues.
I'm listening.
Dr. Kweku, what do you say? Because when I heard your explanation, it was so easy to appreciate that they may have just been too much in a hurry. But he says they are dealing with numbers, taking into account registrations, additions that will come from the district and from the secondary schools. And yet, they have in excess
of 3,900.
What do you say to that?
Which we have presented it to them. We are not saying it just on radio.
Hi, Dr. Kweku.
Something.
Yes.
He said my figure don't sum up. So I'm giving you that. I have the figures now.
Okay.
So I want to give them address. So
Okay.
the main registration at MA Primary School, the main registration was for the census was 385.
Okay.
Then the second school, Kumaka, the first phase, 242.
Mm-hmm.
The second phase, 699.
Mm-hmm.
The mop-up, 259.
Mm-hmm.
Then from the district office, 21.
Mm-hmm. Let me just do the quick
So
summation.
that should give you that 1603 that I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so
1,221. This is our letter to them, identifying 3,900.
Oh, where did you get it? 2,000.
We've given them check for themselves.
Thousand.
Yes.
Thousand.
This is the total.
So based on this figure, you read that the difference is almost
221. This is the total. This is our letter to them.
All right.
Now, yes. So what is that? Where they have identified the differences, they should go to our district office. Because when they mentioned the Swansea issue on their press conference, that's where I got my figure. Because I have to call the district officer to seek clarification. So I cannot respond to every center because I will not have the figures.
All right.
But if they have any challenge, then like I've taken you through, the difference could be as a result of registration in the secondary school or registration from the district office. So they should go to the grader's office where the figures they are talking about had come. And probably I believe that when they get there and the explanation I've given you, they will understand them.
But I thought you said you were lying. This is NewsFile. This is not any other show.
Hold on.
If you don't have facts,
please hold on.
You don't come and make claims that you can't substantiate.
Now, they say that what they brought to you,
this is NewsFile.
They said that, in summary, a total of 639 was recorded during the entire registration period as against 1,316 as contained in the voter register presented to the party by the EC, with an overall increase by 3,901 and decrease by 1,246.
So the figures you're giving, which is 1,201.
I don't know if what he has said, you find that your explanation may not have satisfied
and what he's asking us to do has already been done. We've sent this letter to them.
Okay.
Supported.
Now hold on, do this.
With
do
evidence.
this. Dr. Sribo Kweku, I want Sami Jamfi to make this representation in their letter, which I am seeing. I don't want to read it myself.
Okay.
To make that representation to you in explaining, and then give us your explanation back. Let's hear. So go ahead.
So this is what we have stated in our letter to the Asawase EC office. In summary, a total of 101,639 people were recorded during the entire registration period. Entire here means those who registered in 16 names. And so the increase is 3,901. The decrease relative to missing names is 1,246. So even if we take the explanation you have given us, hook, line, and sinker, which is based on the assumption that we did not factor that in our analysis, which is not the case, but let's even grant you that, it only explains 1,212 of the padded figures. We are talking about a far bigger problem.
What's the basis of your padded figures?
Because we have been given the provisional register, which the EC is exhibiting, in all the polling stations in Asawase. And we have compared that with the register which was generated after the voter registration exercise. And we are able to identify names which are not in the daily printouts we had from their district offices, from polling stations, and then from the schools, because we had agents in the schools as well.
Okay, Dr. Sribo, you heard
and
that.
Then, yes.
help us. I'm lost. Help us. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself and start all over again.
What I said, is it saying that the figure have gone down or increased?
There is an increase of 3,901. That means that 3,901 people who were not registered now have their names on the register. Then there is a decrease.
And that 3,000 is not explained. Is that what you are saying?
Yes, it's not explained.
And that there's no explanation for
exactly.
That. And you said that 3,000 is even after those who registered in the
district office
and in the
and in the school. We factored that in. And secondly, there is a decrease. Decrease here means those who were registered but whose names are not on the provisional register exhibited by the EC. The total is 1,246.
And your claim is that this analysis you are doing with documents or registers supplied you by the EC
Electoral
itself.
Commission of Ghana, which he can attest to. And which we are not just saying this on radio. We have written an official complaint and attached all these pieces of evidence.
Dr. Kweku.
So
let's hear Dr. Kweku. Yes, Dr. Kweku.
Yes.
I'm not still getting him. Is he saying that the figures at Aswasi has increased or decreased?
You see, both. It has increased by 3,901 because 3,901 people who were not registered during the registration exercise now have their names on the register. So that is the addition, 3,901. In the same vein, it has decreased by 1,246 because those who were actually registered and giving cards, 1,246 of them don't have their names on the register. So we are giving you the padded figures. Those who were not registered but don't have their names on the register, 3,901. And we are giving you the decreased figure, which is 1,246. Those who were registered and given with cards but whose names are missing. And this is before your district EC director in Asawasi. You can confirm with him. He's aware of this issue.
So my first question is, when did they write to her, to the lady?
I'm sure the letter went either yesterday or the day before.
Yesterday or the day before?
The day before, yes.
So that would have been after your press conference?
Yes, yesterday or the day before.
All right.
Yes. What I would say is that I don't have the figures he's talking about.
Okay.
Because if it had come to us, then we would then investigate.
Right.
Because because they mentioned Aswasi, that's why I asked her, and the lady gave me this example.
So the explanation you attempted was not based
right.
From what he said, it has not gotten to our office. It's only when it gets to our office that we can now ask for questions.
That's
so what he's saying, I wouldn't say he's lying, but I don't have the facts, so I cannot speak to it.
That's fine. Okay.
I don't have the facts, so I can't speak to it because it has not come to our table.
Right, but
what I want to say is that every registration that we did, we gave them a copy of the end of day report.
Right.
So if genuinely they have all the end of day report and they submit it to the district officer or us, we will then investigate and come out and establish the truth or falsehood of it.
Okay.
There's no way you can go contrary because it is because of the transparency of it. That's why we are supposed to give out copies of the printout.
Thank you very much.
So everything that I've mentioned with respect to that particular school, the printouts are ready.
Thank you. Very, very quick one. Was I right or wrong when I said some of the ID cards, you print them without the holder necessarily having to be in your offices? Was I right or wrong?
You were wrong. You are right. What you see, the difference is that if you have misplaced the ID card, then we need to establish the identity of you. Right. That one you don't have any card to show. That one have to go through the verification. But where we have identified it and we know that you are holding a number, let's say 47, but that number 47 should have been 50. In that case, if you bring the 47 with your ID card, the picture is the same person. It's only the ID card that has changed. So you bring a card and you take another card away.
No need for verification.
If you don't have the card, you cannot be
all right. Okay, thank you. Now hold on. No. Sami, do this. Yeah. Now, Obi.
Yes.
Take us through your understanding why the NPP is not agitated like the NDC is.
Well, thank you so much.
And if you can start from the premise where they say this is unprecedented, and therefore labels the EC as having exhibited monumental incompetence.
Thank you, Samson. I would say that for the candidate, that is candidate Mahama, either he's been misled by people who should know better, or it's a deliberate attempt to bastardize the whole system and to have a basis for rejection of the election results. And I have reasons to say this. It's quite unfortunate for the NDC to adopt such a posture. We went to IPAC. At IPAC, their rep brought out all the issues. There is duplication here. The numbers are high here. Some cars had to be retrieved. We told them we are also facing the same problem. So in the first place, why do you say that the EC is conniving with MPP to rig the elections? That makes that statement very unfortunate, and if that's, I want to be charitable, otherwise irresponsible. Because some of the issues that you've raised, I can tell you that in various constituencies, we have come across those things.
So we are not lying.
If you come to my constituency, Ikwapim South, there's an area called Degu. As we speak, 302 new cars have been printed to replace the old ones because the coding, the numbers there were not the right numbers. And as we speak, we've asked them to bring the old ones to come for the new ones. Because we have been informed, we have the list of all those people involved. There are other places where they don't even find their names. So far, we've counted about 141. So I'm saying that if you create this kind of fear and panic situation, then you, sometimes we end up questioning your motive. Because in the first place, registration, whether we like it or not, even with the involvement of parties, is an individual matter. You cannot register for anybody. The person who registered goes to the center, he doesn't find his name, he has to fill the inclusion form so that his name will be included. His details are wrong, he has to fill the correction form. He has found a name there which should not be there, he fills the exclusion form. The EC will generate the inclusion list, exclusion list, and all these things.
And for those of you watching us on television, Dr. Sribo spoke about, the catalog of technical issues with the 2020 exhibition of the voters register. 2012 voters register. Sorry, 2012 voters register.
Yes.
That is what you have on your screens now.
Yes.
So you can tell what happened and compare to today and make the decision for yourself whether the NDC is right when they say that the EC has exhibited incompetence.
Tell Samuel Dami to copy me.
Yes.
I want to have
So he wants more information. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that we have come across these situations. Our solution is that let's use the system to make sure that they are corrected as much as possible. Because this grandstanding, if the exhibition ends and then you have not filled the inclusion form, you have not made any point. If you think that somebody should not be on the register and you've not filled the exclusion form, you haven't generated anything. And some of the issues that you are raising, they occurred in 2012. In 2012 in my area, the whole list was given and new cards were provided. In 2012, I can give you a Methodist. The list is here, I can give you everything. So we shouldn't create the impression that this is unprecedented and is deliberate and is connivance with the ruling party. If you make such statements, we are just out to incite people and to create the impression that...
In 2012, the national picture was that missing names. You had the places affected. You had 152 districts in the 10 regions being affected. That's what you had in 2012.
Including blank registers.
Same voter ID number for more multiples of voters in the same polling station. 2012. It happened in Lade Kotopong, Ekwapim South. Yeah. That's getting to your area, right?
That's my area.
Fantiakwa, Hohoi, Jasikan, Esikuma, Odobing Brakwa, Odobing, Temametru, Keta, Tano North. So the list goes on about the things that happened. Yeah, okay.
And in 2012, the statistics is here.
The duplicate voter ID numbers in 2012. Gan West, Ho Municipal, Mampong, Bantama, Savlugu, Tema Metro, Echuma, Nwabieja. Right. So there was, they said how they corrected that. System programming, issues, reprinting of ID cards. And in 2012, I have seen ID cards that were reprinted, used in 2012 and used in 2016 as well. Yeah.
We will come to 2020 and some of the issues which have come up and which the EC has responded. But in 2012, corrections alone, 200,000. 200,686. This is the statistics. You come to disease 7959, objections 7,318, inclusions 7,318. Inclusion.
What? Give me the figure.
This year.
7,000 and what?
Yesterday I appeared on this show with Griffiths.
Okay.
When I gave him these facts, this morning I heard him talking only about inclusion. But if it's correction, you'll still be giving a new card. And that happened 200,000, over 200,000 new cards were printed for correction.
Is the figure 7,000 or 9,000?
So
7318.
And yeah, Obi, the question I want to ask is it your understanding, like we are being told, particularly by the opposition, that this was supposed to give us a superior, improved system, and that because of that, these were not expected? Is that your understanding?
Well, if you're new to this, you may say that that's the understanding. But you should know that apart from procuring the equipment, people will operate the equipment. And if the people are not well trained, or if they have other motives, you could still come about with some of these problems. It doesn't really mean that once you have, like 2012, we had new machines.
Right.
And we said they were the best. But look, listen to the commentary. Just give me just 2 minutes to read to you what they said about 2012.
Okay.
The overriding challenge reported were shortfalls in the number of persons registered at many polling stations. That's one. There were swapped polling station codes, displacement of voters and instances of names and pictures swapped. There were several complaints of voters being placed on an exception list even though their registrations were not challenged, while others who were cleared by the DRC had their names missing on the exhibited voters register. That's a summary of the situation that happened. In 2020, we appear to be experiencing some of these things. I see it as the glass being half full. How do we sit down to address this so that at the end of the day, nobody is disenfranchised? But the attitude of our friends is that this is a grand scheme to rig, and that will reject flawed elections. Of course, you have every right to reject flawed elections, but it's your duty and responsibility to ensure that if you reject it, you go through the right process.
So this is how I want to end this discussion, and so we can take a break and return with very limited time to see what we can say about the fight corruption campaign by the various parties. Dr. Kwaku,
I have some more questions.
wait, Dr. Kwaku, my issue with you is that your understanding as the EC? Because we understand that you are spending a lot of money, you have been giving quite a bit of money for this process, and so this was not expected. What do you say to that? Remember the election challenge, when the elections were challenged in the courts by President Akufo-Addo and co. We had issues of duplicate serial numbers, duplicate polling stations. All of these were issues that the court looked into and confirmed for some of them that they had happened.
That's why we would call this one provisional register. Provisional register in the sense that it's not final. There are a lot of things that we have to go through, including the exhibition exercise, including all the challenges that have been identified, being addressed. It will interest you to know that as at yesterday, when I was leaving the office, we have been able to retrieve all the missing names, and we are now left with around 17,000. So if you compare that with 2012, you see that we are getting closer. And we are still doing the end of life and the rest. So we realize that if nothing at all, it's only the 17,000 that will apply for inclusion. So we have moved ahead, correcting all the errors. And also I want to say that it is good for anybody to be criticizing, raising the issues. But my concern is impugning the ill motive is my concern. Because it's good that somebody is watching you. So that this step you are taking, you say, hey, I have to be very careful, this and that and that. But if they are coming without any impugn motive and the rest, anybody who has been moving with elections and the rest knows that these things will happen, we will correct them. And that's why the system itself is regenerating itself, addressing the challenges. The machines are operated by human beings. Human beings will make the mistakes, the machine will generate it and will do the corrections. So they should understand that anything that has happened at the registration will be rectified during exhibition and after exhibition. So by the time they will get the final register, all these challenges that they are talking about will not be issues. So they should relax and have confidence that the Electoral Commission has no interest in cheating anybody. The Electoral Commission who has been conducting election 92 to date, which
the Electoral Commission may not have any mission or agenda of cheating anybody, but it must produce a register worthy of the expense we are making, because you know the controversial circumstances under which this register is being produced, on the basis that it will be superior, it will be far improved. So is it not fair? Is it not fair that citizens should complain that they don't want to hear?
We have not completed the register. Okay. We have not completed. So wait for us to. That the exhibition is part of the compilation of the register. The post-exhibition errors and those are part of the commission. So when we have come out that this is the final register, then you can now say that the register is not credible or not. The first place, when we talk of credible register, what does it mean?
Okay.
Credible register means that the register should be accurate.
Dr. Kweku, do this for me. Remain there. We have just very little time to finish this. I'm taking a break, and when I come, I will need you to answer the question to ensure that there is you stick to your motto of fairness, transparency, and accountability. Was it not expected that once you discovered 60,000, duplicates, you should have called the parties, informed them about it, because they are your major stakeholders? But you did not until a video came out, and then in reacting to the video and criticisms associated, then you sought to now correct what happened. When we return, you answer that for us. Thank you. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is NewsFile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. My guest, Sammy Gyamfi, Director of Communications of the NDC, and a Communications Officer. And then you have Obi Amwa. Also, we have on the line or via Zoom, Srebo Kweku of the Electoral Commission, and we'll finish with him quickly. I asked you that question. Did you live up to your motto, fairness, transparency, and accountability, when your key stakeholders were left in the dark about this discovery of 60,000 duplicate, is it ID cards, numbers?
Something. Before I answer that question, I want to remind my brother, or I will say my nephew, Sammy Gyamfi, that just last year, in Elembele, they complained of about 15,000 people's names missing the register. Right. And I believe he knows that we addressed them before the register was completed. So all these issues out of the, and if you look at the catalog I gave you, these are all challenges which were addressed administratively without the involvement of the political parties. So in 2020, when we were replacing the duplicate ID card, we didn't invite the political parties. We only sent them to the exhibition centers. And as I said, the party agents are there and they help us to distribute the registers. So it's the same process that we are doing.
Have you heard of the situation? The situation in Binduri.
When we go to
the situation in Binduri where people went to the exhibition center and then they were giving just an exercise book to enter their names. I mean, that doesn't speak well of your work.
Something. If you can get somebody to check from Binduri, we sent their new register to them 3 days ago. So it was addressed. If you look at the catalog I gave you, in 2012, some of the registers, we have flowers representing the people's faces. Flowers, check there. And we are there, all of these things.
Okay.
So when you do, we talk of registering 16 million people within 1 month or so. So these challenges will come up.
But do you really have the time? Do you really have the time to make all these corrections so that we don't have a register that has a problem?
So did you have the same time 2012 when the catalog of issues have got you as said?
Yes. You have barely how many days to make all these corrections and produce a certified register before the elections?
Something by law, we are to give the political parties copies of the registers after we are finished with the compiling, the special voting and transfers and process. These things are supposed to be done. And the application is to be done not less than 42 days to the election. So they would apply with around 25th of October. When they apply, then we will put those who have applied for transfer to their names on the absent voters list at where they were and put them on transfer at their current places. Those who are applying for special voting, which sometimes maybe you will apply, we will also put you on absent voters list at your centers.
Okay.
When we have finished all these things, the registers will be ready and we'll give the final register to the political parties. By our projection, we are to give them around the 11th of November. We have the whole of October to address all these challenges.
All right.
And I can assure you that it will be the best register ever produced by the Electoral Commission.
All right. Thank you very much. Except that Muntaka says to inform you that the complaint in Asawase was actually sent to the Electoral Commission here in Accra and copied to the officer in that region and the district.
24th of September.
Yeah, which means the headquarters must be resolving the problem.
The last time I talked to Anabu Muntaka was doing the registration.
Okay. All right.
He's my personal friend, so do registration. When you have any challenge, you will call me and we'll talk about it. After registration, I'm not aware of what's talking now.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Srebo Koku, for your time. Your job is a very difficult one, and this is a ritual almost every time, depending on whether the party is in government or is in opposition. You suffer these things. I remember around this time, how you were being assailed by the NPP. And now it is the time of the NDC to assail you. But please give us the best of register as you promised, because we have invested enough. Thank you very much. Now let's take your concluding remarks.
Yeah, something. What you just did.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say. Jokingly,
I spoke to facts.
It's misplaced sympathy.
I spoke to facts. I have been hosting this show for how many
because we are the victims here. They are not the victims.
Hosting this show for a decade.
But that's just by the way. That's just by the way. So Dr. Srebo should note that the official complaint from Asawase went to the EC chairperson on the 24th of September.
Okay.
So he can check that.
All right.
Secondly, he's claimed that only 60,000 people are affected by the problem of defective ID cards relative to duplicate voter ID numbers. It's not true. The EC has not published the names of voters who are affected by this problem. All they have done is that they have published a list of 100 districts which are affected. Now, we have discovered through our painstaking investigations that districts which have not been listed as affected are indeed affected and they are printing cards. Example is Swami. That is why they didn't want him to go yet. Swami is not on the list of 100 districts affected by the problem of duplicate cards.
And
yesterday we caught them printing new cards there and distributing in their offices. Number two, Honorable Obiamwa, Dr. Srebo says that this has happened before, the problem of duplicate cards. It is not new. But that is true. But what they fail to tell our audience is that any time we have had these problems, the EC has announced it, in some cases, published the names of the affected persons, and involve political parties in the resolution of those problems.
So that's the demand that President Mahama makes of them.
Exactly.
That they should publish the names and details of all persons affected.
He is a very experienced politician. He's been involved in this process for a long time. The issue he spoke of in his constituency, was he not involved in the resolution?
But when you detect these, what are you supposed to do beyond just complaining? What are you supposed to do?
Yes.
We've written to them officially. Our General Secretary has written to them, raising all these questions.
Is that the way to resolve them?
You have to write to them and raise the issues in the media space.
He says it's not writing. You say it's not writing, but what are you supposed to do?
It's not about writing, we should do what?
What I'm saying is that the individual who is affected by
I'm building a point. Hold on.
should go through the
How would they know? How would they know?
Why would they know?
Have their names been published?
No,
if right now your voter ID number has been duplicated
in the register, so how do they make it?
If your ID number has been duplicated, how will you know? Your name has not been published. Your name may not even be in the register.
If I go for the exhibition, then I will see.
Yes.
That's it.
They have not been informed.
If you go for the exhibition, your attention will be drawn to it.
Because of time.
The party's attention will be drawn to it. That this is what we are doing. I was going through Ablekuma, Esler's place, Diaper. They met just like my place. They met. The EC informed them that this is what is happening.
But for the Ablekuma Central video, which went viral on social media, we would not have been having this conversation because we would not even have known. They have not informed political parties of this anomaly.
I said that.
Let me proceed, please.
Oh,
again,
that issue.
Again, he says that, it doesn't matter. Even if your card is duplicated, you can vote.
Yes.
Really, Dr. Srebo, what you are proposing is a recipe for chaos on 7th December. And you must revise this position.
He says if you don't have a card.
The reason is that,
he says if you don't have a card.
And he says that even if you have the duplicated card, it's immaterial. Your ID number is immaterial. You can vote.
Is that why he said?
Okay, I haven't heard him say that. I've heard him say if you don't have a card, you can still vote.
Yes, and he has also said that even those with the duplicate ID numbers, they are only replacing it because they need it for bank transactions and other transactions.
Okay.
He said it on Good Evening Ghana. And even here he said that it is immaterial. Let me show you what we risk, having, the chaos we risk having on 7th December. When you go to vote at any polling station, you mention your name, they check your name in the alphabet register. Your voter ID number, he knows, is unique to you. That is what helps the EC officials to identify where you are in the register, the page, and whether you are on the left side or the right side. If you come to a polling station with a card with one ID number, which is different from the ID number which has been regenerated and which is what will be in the register, and I am a polling agent, I will challenge you. I will not allow you to vote. Because that number is not unique to you. Is that the chaos the EC is proposing that we walk ourselves into? Again, Samson, he says that these anomalies are normal.
And that's your very final comment.
Oh, last but one, please. I will do that quickly.
Your very final comment.
But Honorable Obiamo has just exposed them. First of all, they are talking about 2012. Why not 2016? Are we not learning as a country?
Yeah, you can talk about it. So
in 2012, the total number of people who were included, 7,308.
Yes.
2020, how many years down the line? In Ashama alone, missing names, 7,000. In Japa, over 2,000.
You said we should talk about 2016. So what's the 2016?
What I'm trying to tell you is that in 2016, we did not have these problems.
2016, you didn't have this.
You understand? Hold on.
Okay.
The limited
even with obsolete machines. Now you claim to have bought the best technology and all that.
So in 2016,
I am telling you that
we didn't
in terms of the magnitude of these anomalies, and the difference is that
limited registration.
Exactly.
So the difference is clear, right?
It can't be the same.
You can't expect the same thing in 2016.
No. Okay. Because that was not a wholesale registration.
Yes,
but the point I'm making is that even in 2012, in terms of missing names, we are talking about 7,000. Okay. This year, according to Dr. Srebo, and I'm not accepting that figure, but for purposes of this discussion, he claims that the outstanding missing names, 17,000. Can you compare the two? The difference, again, is that in 2012, we had ample time to rectify the anomalies. As we speak, we have 8 days for presidential candidates to file their nominations.
We don't have 8 days.
He says they have time to get registered.
Finally,
let's get to my last point. I'm sorry, let's get to
it. No, sorry. Of my time.
Yes, let's hear your final comment.
As I've said, at IPAC, we told the EC that we want the assurance that these things will be done. And we will do everything to ensure that it's done. If we have to assist, we assist for them to do it. Our attitude is not there's fire everywhere, nothing can be done.
Because you are in power, that's how you conduct yourself.
In 2016,
when you were not in power, it was not any different from what the NDC is doing.
Every time that we have gone for elections, we've made sure that we are our own referees. We don't depend on any referee. Like Azuma Nelson in the boxing ring. We take the law, we teach the law, we confront the issue with the law, and then we go through it. That's how come we are able to even get our results before the issue.
Has there been any occasion in this country where blank registers have been exhibited? Blank registers.
No, there is no register.
Yes,
there is no register. Then there's no register. So please, the NDC should calm down. They should assist for this process to go on well, so that the right person is elected. And the people of Ghana,
the MPP doesn't see anything wrong at all with what is going on.
No, we do.
You do?
We do, and we express it at IPAC, and we told them that we want it resolved. John Bodu, I was there with John Bodu McMenu. We asked them those who.
Is it pardonable to have these areas where the entire list of people who registered, not even one?
It's not pardonable. It's not pardonable. I'm not here to defend the EC.
So the EC should be making these admissions.
Yes. So I don't speak for the EC. What I'm saying is that if I find in my area that 300 names had different codes and they've printed new cards for them, I have to assist for them to get a card so that they will vote for me on election day.
Okay.
If I find in a brief 141 people whose names are missing, mine is to ensure that these names are brought back so that they vote for me.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that it's not peculiar to their so-called strongholds.
So you should be interested because the integrity of the elections is good for all of us.
Yes.
If the election is subject to a challenge, perhaps in a court, because of some of these things,
it's a waste of everybody's time.
It can overturn whatever may happen.
And you haven't
now, as you know, that the ritual and unforgivable situation in the north continues to happen. For the past few weeks, there have been torrential rains in the northern parts of the country. This, coupled with the spillage of the Barry Dam in Burkina Faso, has caused severe flooding in the upper east, northeast, and northern regions of Ghana. So far, over 30 people are reported dead and over 100,000 displaced in communities located along the White Volta. In response to this, EcoBank and Joy FM, Joy Super Morning Show, have launched their Up to Us campaign to mobilize funds to support the affected person. So you can join the drive by making a donation for this worthy cause. Donations can be made in all EcoBank branches nationwide or through direct transfers from any bank into the Northern Floods Disaster Fund. Northern Floods Disaster Fund, with account details as follows. The account name is the Northern Floods Disaster Fund. The account number is 144-100-233-8104, and the branch is EcoBank Head Office, and the SWIFT code is EcoCGHAC. The sort code is 13-01-01. You can also donate on the EcoBank mobile app by following the steps that you are familiar with if you use EcoBank. And then you follow the prompts and make your contribution as well. Join EcoBank and Joy 99.7 FM today to make a difference in the lives of the many displaced people up north. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners. 25 years of excellent broadcasting and leadership. This has been NewsFile, and I've been your host, Samson Ladi Anyanini, and my guests have been Dr. Srebo Kweku, who is Director of Electoral Services, Electoral Commission. Sami Jemfi is National Communications Officer, National Democratic Congress. Osei Bonsu Amoa is MP, Ekwapem South, and Deputy Minister, Local Government and Rural Development. Earlier, you heard Professor Kwesi Ening, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We were unable to deal with the question of corruption and how the parties intend to fight it in their manifestos. We should do that the next time. particularly at a time when the World Bank has isolated Ghana and giving Ghana a lot of praise because of the work done by Domelevo at the Auditor General's Department. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.